Welcome to The Voice of Love, a channel where everyday life stories are told with warmth and heartfelt emotions. Here, we share reflections on love, marriage, and relationships. Each story is not just for listening, but for feeling, for reflecting, and for discovering a part of yourself within it. Join us on this journey, and let's spread love through every story we tell. Acts of caring. Michelle was sitting at her desk in the living room, tapping away at the keyboard. From where she sat, she could hear her husband, Brad, sorting through the laundry in the utility room next door. A smile crept across her face. Over the past few days, Brad had been mopping the floors, preparing little snacks, running errands, and doing all sorts of chores, all because Michelle was caught up with her master's thesis. It left her feeling deeply content and, above all, loved. Michelle's primary love language is what I like to call acts of caring. By that, I mean doing the things you know your partner would like you to do. You make them happy by looking after them, by showing your love through the things you actually do for them. That was exactly the case with Doug and Kate, the couple I mentioned in the previous chapter. Cooking, setting the table, washing up, tidying the house, changing nappies, picking up medicine, looking after the car, paying household bills, trimming the hedges, walking the dog, sorting out issues with the landlord, or dealing with the insurance company. All of these are acts of caring. They take thought, planning, time, effort, and energy. And when they're done with a good spirit, they're a true expression of love. These kinds of things don't really take up that much time. I know a husband who absolutely hated having to drag the empty bin back from the roadside after a long and tiring week at work. All he wanted in those moments was to head straight inside, kick off his shoes, and put his feet up. Some nights, he got exactly that. When I turned into our street and glanced around, looking for the big Willy bin tipped over somewhere along the pavement, it wasn't there. My wife had already brought it back in. That simple act of putting the bin away was her clear message to me. I'm thinking of you. You're on my mind even when you're not here. A conversation in a mill town. I first discovered just how much impact acts of caring can have on married life in a little town called China Grove, North Carolina. Nestled among old soapberry trees, right in the heart of the state, China Grove sat not far from where the legendary TV series The Andy Griffith Show was filmed. By the time I returned, it was a small mill town with a population of about 1,500 people. I'd been away for more than 10 years, studying anthropology, psychology, and theology. Every 6 months or so, I would make the trip back home for a visit. Almost everyone I knew worked at the textile mill, apart from Dr. Shin and Dr. Smith. Shin was a medical doctor, while Smith was the town dentist. And of course, there was Father Blackburn, the priest who cared for the local church. For most couples in China Grove, life revolved almost entirely around the mill and the church. Conversations at the mill usually centered around the manager's latest decision and how it might affect their work. As for their service at church, that was mostly about the joys of heaven they felt they could glimpse ahead of time. It was in that simple, small-town American setting that I first came to see the fourth love language. I remember it was a Sunday. I was standing under the soapberry trees after church when a young couple walked up to me. I didn't recognize them. I guess they must have been children when I left town for my studies. The husband introduced himself as Dave. "I hear you're studying counseling, is that right?" I replied with a smile. "I'd like to ask you something. Can a husband and wife really keep a marriage going if they disagree about everything?" I could tell straight away that this wasn't just a hypothetical question. It came from his own personal struggles, so I got straight to the point. "How long have you been married?"
2 years, Dave replied, and we've never agreed on anything. I suggested, why don't you give me a few examples? Well, for one, Mary doesn't like me going hunting. I work at the mill all week and I enjoy hunting on Saturdays. Not every Saturday, of course, only during hunting season. Mary, who had been silent up to this point, cut in. When hunting season's over, then he's off fishing. And it's not just Saturdays. He even takes days off work to go hunting. I only take a few days off a year to head into the mountains with my mates, Dave said, sounding irritated. What's wrong with that? What else do you two disagree on? I asked. Well, she wants me to go to church every time, he said. Sunday mornings are fine, but by Sunday evening, I just want to rest. If she wants to go, she can, but I don't see why I should be forced to. Mary spoke up again. He doesn't really want me going either. Every time I step out the door, he makes a fuss about it. I knew better than to let them break into a full-blown argument there in front of the church. Part of me worried I'd get dragged into something messy I wasn't ready for. But as a young and eager counselor in training, I'd been taught to ask questions and listen. So I carried on. What else do you two not see eye to eye on? I asked. This time, Mary jumped in first. He wants me to stay at home all day and do housework. He gets angry if I go to see my mom, go shopping, or just step out to do something. I don't mind her visiting her mother, he countered. But when I come home, I expect the house to be tidy. There are weeks when she doesn't even make the bed for 3 or 4 days, and sometimes she doesn't bother cooking dinner. After I've been working hard all day, I'd like to sit down to a proper meal. And besides, the place looks like a war zone. The kids' toys are scattered all over the floor, the little one's dirty, and I just can't stand the mess. She, on the other hand, seems perfectly happy living in a pigsty. We don't have much money, and the house is small, but at the very least, it should be clean. Why doesn't he help me with the housework then? He acts as though a husband doesn't have to lift a finger at home. He just wants to work and then go hunting. He expects me to do everything around the house. At that point, I decided it was time to steer things toward a solution rather than stirring up more conflict between them. I looked at Dave and asked, Dave, back when you two were dating, before you got married, did you go hunting or fishing every Saturday? Most Saturdays, yes, but I always made sure to be back early so I could see her on Saturday night. Usually, I even had time to clean my car before picking her up. I didn't want to turn up with a filthy car. As I asked further, I learned that Mary and Dave got married straight after finishing high school. During her final year, Dave had spent nearly every evening at her house for dinner. He'd help me with the housework, and then we'd sit and chat until dinner time, Mary recalled. Dave, what did the two of you usually do after dinner? I asked. He glanced upwards, gave a sheepish grin, and said, well, the usual things young couples do. But if I had a school project, he'd help me with that too. Sometimes we'd spend hours working on it together. Once, I was in charge of building the Christmas float for the senior class, and every afternoon for 3 weeks, he came round to help me. Back then, he was amazing. I steered the conversation toward the second area of their disagreements. Dave, when you two were dating, did you go to church with Mary on Sunday evenings? Yes, if I didn't, I wouldn't have been able to see her on Sunday nights. Her father was very strict about that. I felt I was beginning to see the bigger picture, though I wasn't sure they had yet. I turned to Mary. Mary, back when you were dating Dave, what made you believe he truly loved you?
What made him stand out from the other boys you dated? It was the way he helped me with everything. The other boys never bothered. Dave even washed the dishes when he came round for dinner. He was the most wonderful person I'd ever met. But after we got married, he seemed to change completely. I looked back at Dave. So why did you do all those things for her before you were married? I just did them naturally. Those were the kinds of things I'd want someone to do for me if they cared about me. Then why did you stop helping her around the house once you were married? Well, I suppose I thought married life should be like my parents' life. My dad went out to work, and my mom stayed at home. I never once saw my dad do housework. Mom did it all. The cooking, cleaning, washing up, ironing. Since she was at home, that was her role. I just assumed family life was supposed to work that way. By now, things were starting to come into focus. Dave, did you hear Mary's answer when I asked her what made her feel loved back when you were dating?
Dave answered by helping her out and doing things with her. So you understand now why she's felt unloved since you stopped helping her, I asked. Dave nodded, showing he'd understood. I went on. It's perfectly natural to be influenced by the example of your parents' marriage. Almost everyone is. But the way you treat Mary now is worlds apart from how you treated her when you were dating. What once convinced her of your love is no longer there. Then I turned to Mary. Did you hear Dave's answer when I asked why he helped you with all those things back when you were dating? He said it just came naturally to him. That's right, I said. Dave also said he did those things because that's how he'd want someone to show love to him. For him, helping you was an expression of love. But once you two got married and moved into your own home, he developed certain expectations about how you would show love to him. He expected you to keep the house tidy, to cook meals, in short, to do certain things for him as your way of expressing love. Do you see now why he's felt unloved when those things weren't done? Mary nodded in agreement. I continued. My sense is that neither of you is happy in this marriage because you've both stopped showing love in the way the other understands it, by doing things for each other. Mary added, I think you're right, and the reason I stopped doing things for him was because I didn't like the way he ordered me about, as though he was trying to turn me into his mother. Exactly, I said. No one likes being forced to do something. Love is always a free gift. It's not something we can demand. We can request things of each other, but we must never demand them. A request can open the door to love, but a demand will shut it down. Dave looked thoughtful. You're right, I have ordered her about, demanded, as you put it. I suppose I've been disappointed in her as a wife. I know I've said some harsh things to her, and I can see why she's been hurt by me. I believe things can be turned around, I said, pulling 2 small notepads from my pocket. Let's give this a try. I want the 2 of you to sit down together and do a little exercise. Dave, I'd like you to list 3 or 4 things that Mary could do that would make you feel loved when you come home in the evening. If having the bed made is one of those things, write it down. And Mary, I'd like you to do the same. Write down 3 or 4 things that you'd be genuinely happy if Dave helped you with. Things that if he did them, you'd know he loved you. I really like the list-making method. It forces us to think things through carefully. About 5 minutes later, they handed me their lists. Dave's list included make the bed every day, wash the child's face before I get home, put her shoes away in the cupboard before I arrive, try to prepare dinner, at least get it started, so that we can eat about 30 to 45 minutes after I come in. I read the list out loud and said to Dave, so what you mean is if Mary chose to do these 4 things, you would take them as signs of her love for you. That's right. Just these 4 things. It really would change how I feel about her, he replied. Then I read Mary's list. I wish he would wash the car every week instead of leaving it for me. I wish he would change the baby's nappy when he gets home in the afternoon, especially if I'm busy making dinner. I wish he would help vacuum the house once a week. I wish he would mow the lawn every week in the summer so I wouldn't feel embarrassed about the state of our yard. I said, Mary, so what you're saying is if Dave decided to do these 4 things, you would see them as expressions of his love for you. Yes, exactly. Dave, can you do the things she's asked? Yes, I can, he said. And Mary, can you do the things on Dave's list? Yes. In the past, no matter how much I did, it never seemed to be enough for him. I turned to Dave. Dave, do you understand that what I'm asking is for you to change the way you live with Mary, to do things differently from the way your parents lived? My dad did mow the lawn and wash the car, he said, but he never changed nappies or vacuumed the house, did he? Never once, Dave admitted with a smile. You don't have to do these things, I explained, but if you choose to do them, they'll be powerful expressions of your love for Mary. Then I turned to Mary. And you don't have to do these things either, but if you want to show love to Dave, you know these 4 things would mean a lot to him. I'd like for both of you to try this for 2 months and see what happens. After that, you might want to add more requests to your lists and share them with each other. But I'd suggest no more than 1 new request per month. That makes sense, Mary said. Thank you, Dave added. With that, they walked off hand in hand towards the car park. I thought to myself, I think I'm really going to enjoy this counseling work. I've never forgotten the insight I had under those soapberry trees that day. Breaking the pattern. After years of working with couples, I realized just how unique Dave and Mary's situation really was. It's rare for me to meet a couple who share the same love language. In this case, acts of caring. You might be wondering then, if they shared the same love language, why was their marriage in so much trouble? The answer is that they were speaking different dialects of the same language. They were both trying to show love through acts of service, but not in the ways that mattered most to each other. When they were forced to stop and think carefully, it wasn't hard for them to identify their own dialect. And once they began expressing love in the way their partner could truly hear it, their love tank started to fill. It's all too easy to put effort into the wrong things. A husband might spend the whole weekend doing chores, raking leaves, tidying the garden for winter, rolling up the hose and putting it away, filling the car with fuel, getting the Christmas decorations down from the attic, chopping wood for the fire, and yet none of it fills his wife's love tank. But if that same husband were to bring home some Chinese takeaway, clean up the kitchen afterwards, and put the kids to bed while his wife rests after a long day, her love tank would be overflowing. Before I leave my 2 friends in that little mill town, let me highlight 3 things I learned from them. First, they showed me clearly that the things we do for each other before marriage aren't necessarily the things we'll do after marriage. Before marriage, we're swept up in the passion of being in love. After marriage, we often revert to who we were before we fell in love. Our behavior tends to be shaped by our parents' example, our own personalities, our beliefs about love, our emotions, our needs, and our desires. The only thing we can be certain of is this: we won't behave the same way we did when we were swept away by passion.
Secondly, love is a choice and it can never be forced. Dave and Mary had been criticizing each other's behavior, and that got them nowhere. Only when they chose to make requests instead of issuing orders and demands did their marriage start to see a positive shift. Criticism and demands usually stir up anger and deepen disagreements. When the criticism builds up to a certain point, You may get compliance from your spouse, but that compliance is not an expression of love. You can guide your partner to understand how to love you through kind requests. I wish you would wash the car, change the baby's nappies, and mow the lawn. But you can never force them to love you. Every day, each of us must choose whether or not to love our spouse. If we choose to love, then expressing it in the way our spouse has asked for is the most effective way of sending that message of love across. The third point is something that perhaps only more mature couples can grasp. My wife's criticisms of my behavior were in fact the clearest clues to help me identify her love language. People often criticize their spouse most harshly about the very things they themselves long for most in terms of emotional needs. The problem is that criticism is a very poor way of trying to receive love. If we understand this, then perhaps we would welcome our partner's complaints in a more positive light. For example, after being criticized, a wife might say to her husband, "This seems to matter a great deal to you. Could you explain a little more?" Criticism often needs to be clarified. A conversation prompted in this way can slowly turn the sting of criticism into a polite request. Mary kept attacking Dave's hunting trips, not because she hated hunting, but because she felt that hunting was the reason he didn't wash the car, hoover the house, or mow the lawn. When Dave finally learned to meet his wife's need to feel loved by using the right love language, Mary no longer felt so irritated about his going hunting. Doormat or dearly loved. I've served him for 20 years. I've waited on him hand and foot. I've been nothing more than a doormat, faithfully doing everything while he's ignored me, mistreated me, and humiliated me in front of friends and family. I don't hate him. I still wish him well, but I feel resentful and I don't want to live with him anymore. This wife had spent 20 years taking care of her husband, but it hadn't come from love. It had sprung from fear, guilt, and resentment. Doormat or dearly loved. A doormat is merely an inanimate object. You can wipe your feet on it, stomp on it, kick it aside, or do whatever you like. It has no will of its own. It may serve as a loyal servant, but it will never be your lover. When we treat our spouse like an object, we rob ourselves of the opportunity to build true love. Using guilt to manipulate your partner, for example, if you were a good wife, you would do this for me, is not love. Using fear to coerce them, such as if you don't do this, you'll regret it, is certainly not love. No one is meant to be a doormat. We are not objects to be used, but human beings with emotions, thoughts, and our own desires. We also have the ability to make decisions and take action. Allowing ourselves to be exploited or manipulated is not an act of love. In truth, it harms the other person. You are enabling them to develop selfish and destructive habits. If you truly love your partner, you will say, "I love you too much to let you treat me this way. This is not good for either of us." When exploring the love language of acts of service, some of us must re-examine the patterns we've inherited about the roles of husband and wife. These patterns have shifted greatly over the decades, yet some traditional models may still be deeply ingrained in our minds. Furthermore, different cultures carry different expectations of what proper behavior in marriage looks like. Dave did one thing very well. he was willing to break away from his own expectations once he realized how important it was for Mary. To express love to your spouse more effectively, you must be willing to review and adjust the marital patterns you have adopted. Remember, clinging to these patterns does nothing to strengthen your marriage, while meeting your partner's emotional needs means you are succeeding in your role as a husband or wife. Always remember, if your spouse's love language is acts of service, then actions will always speak louder than words. In the next section, we will look at the fifth love language.